Hi, I'm Amelia Wilcox, the founder and CEO here at Navati. And today we're going to be talking about how to prevent burnout from bankrupting your company's culture. So, we're going to discuss some strategies for preventing burnout, as well as improving culture and employee engagement. So, to really understand the problem of burnout, we have to go back to 2020. When COVID hit, a lot of people had to work remotely. Essential employees were taking on more and more. My husband is a firefighter paramedic, and so they were actually being forced out into the workforce to pick up shifts for other people that had been sick. And so there was mandatory overtime going on in some of these essential positions. And then you have people maybe working in tech companies that could work remotely, and they're adjusting to working from home and trying to find new work-life balance. And there's just kind of a lot of these things going on. It's a little bit different for everybody depending on what types of jobs they were in. It ranges from the people that say, hey, COVID was a nice vacation where I got to be home with my family and we bought a dog, to the other side of the spectrum where people were so burnt out and they were doing so much they almost couldn't function. So to really understand what burnout is, one of the things you need to know is there are actually 12 levels of burnout. And they range from just in the beginning wanting to prove yourself, so you're working extra hard, to all the way up to level 12, where we see actual physical symptoms that require medical attention. And so it's a pretty wide range. And according to the statistics in 2020, about 51% of employees were feeling some level of burnout. So on that scale of that 1 to 12, half of us were somewhere in there. So since COVID, you would think that percentage of burnout had gone down, but that is actually not the case. Since COVID, it has gone up to 59% of workers that are feeling some level of burnout right now, today. So why is that? Why did that number go up? Once the pandemic has kind of been contained and it's kind of not a big deal anymore, why are people more stressed? Why are they more burnout? Well, there's still a lot of things in play here that we need to break down. One of them being is that we didn't really reduce workloads. COVID happened, workloads increased. We just kept carrying that same level of workload. Another thing that happened is people just got used to living in a state of chronic stress. And as that continues on, those symptoms of burnout, those physical symptoms even that start to happen, those are increasing. You're seeing more of that happening in your population. So how burnout shows up in your organization, there are so many statistics, and I actually speak on this all the time. It's a subject I'm very passionate about. But you are going to see dramatically lower levels of productivity when you have an employee that is on anywhere on that scale of burnout. They're going to be less engaged, less productive. They're going to take more sick days, especially unplanned sick days. If you have a PTO policy in place, that's not going to be as dramatic because they can plan some of their things ahead. But if you have actual sick time and vacation time separately, you are definitely going to see more of those unplanned sick days. You're also going to see a lower quality of work from burnout employees. They make more mistakes and have more errors in their work. They're not able to get into their creativity as well. Their brain doesn't work as well. So the output of their actual work is lower quality. You're going to see more turnover. These employees hit a point where they don't want to do this anymore. They don't want to work there anymore. And a lot of them will actually leave their jobs. We're seeing this a lot in healthcare, where not only are nurses and doctors and people in the medical field leaving their jobs, they're not just going to another hospital. They're leaving that career and they're going and getting a new career in something totally different. So the healthcare industry, for instance, is having a huge crisis because so many people are just leaving the field completely. So burnout has very, very serious, detrimental, and measurable effects when it comes to employee retention, and it can have a big impact on your business. Speaking of impact, it also has a very negative impact on employee morale. As one employee starts to feel burnout and they start to be more negative and they're complaining to their coworkers, and it just kind of starts to spread and infect the organization like a virus. So we really, as HR people, need to be proactively trying to get ahead of these symptoms of burnout, trying to get ahead of these issues around chronic stress and helping employees before they get to that point, before this starts to spread within your organization. Because once it does start to spread, it will really erode that company culture that you and HR have been working so hard to build. All of these initiatives, these programs, these benefits that you put in place to improve company culture, make the employees happy, get them to stick around, it's really undermined by burnout, even if there's only a handful of people experiencing it in your organization. So, what are some of the root causes of burnout? We talked a little bit about increased workload. We talked a little bit about levels of high chronic stress without relief. Some of it is just education and training. In fact, 36% of employees say they don't even know where to get started with managing their stress. So that means as a society, we have a big gap in education that a third of the people in our working world don't know even where to start with stress management. So there is a lot that we can do in HR to provide education, training, tools, help, support to get these people on the right path to managing that stress so that it doesn't evolve into these forms of burnout. And especially if we have a culture where there's not a lot of recognition, there's not a lot of reward. Companies that do a good job rewarding and recognizing their employees can see a 67% decrease in symptoms of burnout among those employees. So these reward and recognition programs are very important, especially if there are high workloads at your workplace. Another big issue that is actually preventable through education and through messaging and communication is poor work-life balance. So a lot of employees don't really know how to balance work and life very well, especially once people came home from COVID. What happened is they started blending together their work life and their home life. And what that actually translates into is doing more and more work after hours, on weekends, and things like that. So we as companies, as the employers, need to be able to arm our employees with the ability to set boundaries. That is done through communication, training, example from leadership, giving them permission to set boundaries, set themselves as away after 5 p.m., set an autoresponder on their email when they're gone. There are even tools that they can set up when they're on vacation to auto reply to someone who sends an email and say, I'm on vacation. This email will be automatically deleted. Please reply to me after this date when I'm back. And then that technology will actually delete the email so that employees that are on vacation aren't even tempted to try to work while they're resting and trying to recover. Anytime we're talking about culture, it really has to start with leadership. Leadership has to send the message out consistently and repeatedly to where employees absorb that and they believe it. We can't just say we care about work-life balance and we want employees to take time off. We have to encourage it. We have to talk about it. They have to see us going on vacation. They have to see us not responding to emails after 5 p.m. Those are the things that we have to do to really change the culture in an organization. Another thing that can cause burnout and make it worse is a lack of social support for an employee in the organization. So a lot of organizations will put together different social groups within the company, especially if you have employees that are working remotely. They are so much more likely to be affected by burnout because they're also dealing with a lot of isolation. So you have to be very intentional and proactive in building out programs where employees get the opportunity to engage with each other, build a connection, and build those friendships to have that sense of belonging and that sense of social support. So burnout is a big problem. It's a problem that every company is experiencing. It's a problem that everyone in America is experiencing. And so how do we get ahead of this? How do we battle this? How do we prevent this? How do we treat it if it's already rampant in our organization? Well, I'm going to talk about 6 key strategies to do just that. Number 1, promote healthy work habits and boundaries. So I talked a little bit about this, but boundaries are key. And so in an organization, we have to set boundaries, and then we have to train our managers on how to encourage those boundaries. Because sometimes an organization can say, hey, we don't want employees working outside of office hours. But if they have a manager that's working on the weekend and sending them emails asking them for things, then they're getting a mixed message. That manager is saying, hey, I know we're giving you lip service over here that we care, and this is the boundaries we want you to have, and we want to enforce those. But that manager is undermining that effort by not following through with that. So a lot of times this will come back to really intentional training for managers around boundaries. That means managers have to be enforcing their own boundaries and giving their employees permission to enforce theirs. We also need to be promoting healthy work habits. And I've seen this done in a variety of ways. It could be as simple as setting a Slack message away that says, going on a mental health break. Like, hey, today's been a stressful day. I'm going to set my status as this. And then when people see other people in the organization doing that and being more open and vulnerable about taking breaks, then they feel the permission to do it themselves, especially if it is someone in leadership. If they see leadership taking time off, prioritizing their family, honoring their vacation time by not working while they're on vacation, then those employees have permission to do the same themselves. The challenge comes when we're saying one thing, but we're doing another. And a lot of that can be rectified with proper training, encouragement, and enforcement of boundaries. Number 2, offer training in stress management and resilience. So we've talked a little bit about training, but it is so important to train and train and train. That is how we change culture. And stress management, as I said, a third of people don't even know where to begin. So it is our responsibility, our opportunity to come in and provide access to training, to tools, to therapeutic techniques, all of these different things that employees, they can not only use in the office, but we get to expose them to these tools they can use for the rest of their lives. They can use these with their family and in their home life. And we're really making an employee's life better all around by providing education and training to help them be more resilient, to help them manage their stress, and to help them prevent burnout. Number 3, create a supportive and empathetic work environment. So in order to provide the support and empathy that employees need, they need to know they're not alone. And that can be achieved by putting together different groups, putting together discussions, roundtables, having different educational events where people can share their experiences. We've had customers that have even had employees who are willing to make quick little videos with their phone where they talk about something really hard that they went through. They talk about their mental health challenge that they've had, and they share their success story. And employees will be motivated to do this because a lot of people feel like if they can help one other person through what they went through, they're open to sharing their story. There will always be employees that want to be private and are uncomfortable sharing, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And you'll be surprised how many employees are willing to share their experience to help other people not feel so alone. Number 4, encourage open communication and feedback. Employees need to feel that it is a safe place in your organization to provide the feedback that your company really needs to be able to grow and improve. When employees don't feel safe, they don't feel like it's a place they can really communicate their thoughts and feelings, then your organization isn't getting the critical information that they need to do better. One of the best ways I've seen this done is a customer of ours went through their employee feedback survey of their 2,500 employees, and every single open text field that they had in these surveys, they would sit and they would video record answering those questions. And one at a time, every single piece of feedback, they would address it, they would answer the question, they would talk about how they plan to do better, and then they would publish that video to the whole company. So every week, employees were hearing that feedback addressed one piece of feedback at a time, individually and personally, and the whole organization could see what leadership was doing to address these critical pieces of feedback. Number 5, provide access to mental health resources. No longer is just an EAP sufficient to support employees. Employees today are expecting a lot more than your basic mental health support. And for good reason. I shared with you those stats around employee burnout, and those numbers are huge. 59% of us feel burnt out right now. So we need a lot more support than what worked for us in the 1980s. When you're thinking about providing mental health resources to your employees, you need to take two key things into consideration. Number one, you need to be providing them with the type of resource that they need. Not everyone needs to talk to a therapist. If your anxiety is high, but it's because you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't need to talk to someone at the EAP. You need to talk to a financial coach that can help you get out of debt and reduce that anxiety. And number two, if you are providing resources, you need to provide them with the type of resource in the medium that they're open to receiving it. So that could be a blog article they prefer to read, or maybe they'd rather listen to an audio track that takes them through the type of support that they need. Maybe they want to watch a video, or they want to talk to someone one-on-one, or they want to do it in a group setting. So you want to make sure we're providing the types of resources they need in the way that they choose to access them. Number 6, implement a proactive well-being program. Now, as we discussed, a lot of employees who have issues with burnout can be helped if they have the proper tools to help them prior to them getting into burnout in the first place. And if you can help an employee figure out how to manage their stress around money, or improve their sleep, or eat food that helps them feel better mentally and physically, then you're going to help that employee manage those daily stressors of their job and their family more effectively and get ahead of burnout. Navati is a solution that addresses the root causes of burnout. By getting ahead of employee stressors, we can get ahead of burnout, and we can prevent employees from struggling the way that they're struggling now. We can bring that 59% number down, and you can have more employees who are performing better, putting out better work, and sticking around in your organization. Navati provides support for employee well-being through one-on-one access to providers across 6 different dimensions of well-being, as well as personalized, self-guided learning and development, the ability to work in group sessions with education and training, as well as crisis resources to talk to a therapist anytime, 24/7. If I leave you with anything today, I would just love to reiterate the importance of preventing burnout and that it actually can be accomplished. And we have seen that in the results with our customers. If we at Navati can help you in any way to address burnout within your organization and prevent it from bankrupting your culture, we would love to help you.